Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
It's a throwback to finish off the season. In 2010, the bulldozers came in, the buildings came up, and this circuit was one which just became a housing estate. But here in iRacing, we can live this circuit time immemorial. Welcome to Norellan, and welcome here to Oran Park Raceway on the outskirts of Sydney. We are getting set for what is the final round of the iRacing C-Class Supercars Series. My name is Jake Sperry here with Sinspeed TV. Bringing me alongside is Dan Yeaman for this one to go. Jake Kennedy on the cameras here for this one. But Dan, it's always nice to come back to a throwback. It is always fantastic to get yourself in on the best position possible. And this Oran Park circuit is one which has a lot of uniqueness about it. One of the few figure eight circuits in the world before its retirement from racing. One of those circuits that just continuously challenges the drivers, especially when you consider there isn't that much of a long place to go and overtake around here.
No, there certainly isn't there, Sperry, and thank you for the introduction there tonight, and thank you for having me in the box here to round out our final week of broadcasting here in this Supercars series to kick off 2025. And I mean, yeah, this is a track that I got the chance to watch a little bit on TV. Being a Melbourne native, not from New South Wales, never got up to see this place in real life before it closed down. But yeah, it's a fascinating circuit, plenty of charm and appeal here for sure. But as you said, going to be fascinating to see how drivers play this out with only one real straight to talk about to make any real big moves. You're going to have to be very creative, I'd say, to get things working around this place tonight.
And that creativity is going to be needed. These drivers are going to be leaning on each other, trying to get their best opportunities to overtake. But qualifying, I think, could be even more important. Now, let's talk championship standings for where everybody stacks up into the final round of the championship. And it all hangs on those drop rounds at the moment. It will take one monumentally horrible round from Jared Filsell here at the championship end for him to lose that grip of the championship standings, with Brody Kostecki just lurking in wait, 1,948 points in second. Rehan Lianaj has comfortably got third place in the back pocket, with Richie Stanaway fourth and Ryan Jones up into fifth position. It's then Thomas McMillan and Blake Warboy sixth and seventh, with Madison Down now falling down to eighth with the drop rounds. James Chastanerf finds himself ninth, with Matt Morris 10th in the championship overall, with those drops now starting to give themselves a little bit of weight and precedent. But the way it's been over this championship, Jared Filsell versus Brody Kostecki, it was a couple of weeks ago at the Red Bull Ring that really, I would say, rubber stamped Jared Filsell's championship against Kostecki. But those two have been A and A1 positions, with Lianaj just getting close, but not necessarily close enough to make massive inroads.
Yeah, there's certainly been some flashes from other drivers here over the course of the series, but as you said, I think it's clear to see Jared Filsell's been the one to get the most out of the car week in, week out. Couple of exceptions to that have been observed, mind you, not all of them entirely of his own making. Whilst I haven't been able to commentate and observe every single race of this season, I was able to help with production on last week's race at the Sandown, and my word, we saw that was definitely a moment that was out of his hands, and he just ended up being the innocent bystander that arrived on a jam track up at a turn 4 at Sandown. But yeah, this should be more or less a formality. We are at the end of the iRacing week as well to help things out. Only a handful of races left before we wrap up this season. By my time, it'll be early tomorrow morning when it all wraps up officially and be done. For the drivers here, therefore, most of them here in Australia, have a couple of races left tonight if they want to have a crack at it, and maybe one or two races left in the morning before it's all done for this iRacing season.
It's what we call the last dance out here for the championships in iRacing. Most championships get sorted out on Saturdays and Sundays here in iRacing for the strongest strength of fields. When it comes to racing here with this series, it's normally your Monday night, which becomes the big strength of field, and so this is the last dance for those out there. Lianaj with a 106.8 then to set the first strong time out there. Jack Widders currently second. Steve Janssen moves himself up then to second position with his time out on board, but Thomas McMillan decides that he has got a little bit of a turn of pace here today. His 106.7 is good enough to put him on the front of the field, so he's got a really nice run, but that is until you see about 2.5 tenths of a second improvement from Jared Filsell. That is a wonderful first qualifying lap from him, and Brody Kostecki trumps him by 2 tenths on top of that.
Oh, the margin's tighter and tighter as this session goes on, and then it gets blown open at the end of it as well for good measure. So certainly looking exciting here in the last couple of stages. Can anyone make a late improvement? No lap time from Jake Maloney yet as he's finished off his second qualifying lap. Can he perhaps make an impact after winning the race at Sandown last Monday night? To the line he will come, for example. A 106.9 is only good for P6 for the Trans-Tasman driver, so he'll have to start. I think it's knocked back down with Corey Preston, I believe it was, just jumping up there. It was indeed.
I do believe our timing tower here is just frozen, but Kostecki is currently your pole sitter. We just noted with Janssen coming over to the line and not improving on that second lap, so very much stuck on the 106.8 that he's on, so remains in 5th position. Dry conditions here at Oran Park, 28 degrees track temperature, 26 in the air right now, so I would say these are perfect conditions here in the dry season to go out there and race a car about. But only the one driver yet to set a time overall. That's Ryan Jones in the number 10 car at the moment, who has been flirting around the top 10 of the championship overall and looking to try and navigate his charge forward. It looks like we're completely stuck with our tower, but Jones will make his way over towards the line with his second qualifying attempt, and that's a 106.9 for him, which moves him to the 4th row of the grid. Dylan Golson currently out on circuit as well at this moment, but this is a really unique section of the circuit down by the old cart. The run that they're using today is part of the circuit, Dan, that has been developed since 1985 was when they had this entire layout sorted. It used to have the small run through what is now the karting circuit, or was the karting circuit here around Oran Park, but that run to the Champion Corner now is the direct run that we're going to be seeing. As there we go, we've got a little bit of timing back into play. Golson across the line with a 107.6. That puts him 23rd on the grid, and it looks like everybody is done with their laps.
Yep, I'm seeing 25 drivers with 25 times on the board of the field spread of just under 2 seconds to wrap things up here as well. So that should mean we'll be able to go to the grid shortly here and walk you through the times in full, but you can see them there on screen here with just over 2 minutes left in the session. We'll have to see also if it advances forward on us to kickstart the gridding process a little earlier than the 8 minutes would normally prescribe as well here.
Well, normally we get a warning if that's the case, and with 2 minutes to go, I don't think we are going to get that because we do have drivers out on circuit still trying to get a little bit of practice down in on the board. So I think what we can do is run through our starting grid because it's not going to change with all of the drivers who are currently out on circuit. So it will be Brody Kostecki who will be on the front with his 106.2 that he put on the board, and besides him is the championship leader looking to confirm his title. It's Mr. I would say V8 right now in Jared Filsell. Thomas McMillan will be there as backup. He'll start third with Rehan Lianaj for company in fourth position. Steve Janssen will line up in fifth place. And after a strong showing last time out, it's nice to see Corey Preston back in and charging. He'll go from sixth. Jake Maloney, who won last time out with a little bit of fortune over at Sandown. He'll have to try and find that again for himself in seventh, but in eighth, he'll have Ryan Jones there for company in DPR colours. It's then Jack Widdus, who starts in ninth, and Ryan Bettis, who is there in the OPR blackout car in 10th position. Over to row 6, where Kurt Stenberg's had a good qualifying. He'll go from that 11th place. Luke Rosella, who is knocking about the top 10 of the championship, he's there in 12th, and so too knocking about the championship is James Chastanerf. He goes from 13th, which is lucky for some. Christopher Ireland is there in 14th. It's then Rain Campbell, who will start on row 8 with the number 19 machine of Rob Bowden alongside him for company. And the top 20 is going to be, we'll go to row 9, first and foremost, where you find Tomoya Inatani in that 17th position and Ryan Muller in 18th. That top 20 now is going to be lined up by Yuan Jilin and by Ross Rizzo. Over then to the final 5 cars, where Remo Grossenbacher is going from the 21st position with William Sapstead in 22nd, who was involved in the big pile-up that blocked the track 1 week ago. It's then Dylan Golson with Byron Phillips there for Eclipse, and filing out the field will be Tim Mulford there for Phoenix, who will be looking to try and do what he can to move on up the order. But that then brings itself all together then for this grid. They have 2 minutes here to get themselves gridded up. They may not use all of those 2 minutes available, but this run to turn 1 is important because you got not only turn 1 but turn 2 to deal with. It's very easy if you overshoot it in the opening corner to cause a 3-4 car pile-up going into that opening section, because this is such an expansive circuit. You think you've got more time than you do.
Yeah, that's going to be very true indeed. And the front stretch here, this angle almost sort of is a bit deceptive on how much track they're going to have to work with. This is about the best they'll get around this place tonight. And then it'll tighten up through that first half. Well, nearly the rest of the lap, it tightens up to maybe 2 cars wide. And they'll have to be very careful about how they enter certain corners. Getting into the sweeper up here for turn 1. If drivers overcommit, I wouldn't be too surprised if maybe someone falls off the outside of the road if they go try and make it too wide around this place. So, real quick look at the facts for this one here tonight. It's a 42-lap race, which means we come in at just over 109 kilometers or 68 miles for our Imperial friends elsewhere in the world. Burning just 2.15 to 2.2 liters a lap at full burn, but I have seen discussion about it, and we do see it here on the graphic as well, Jake, that we are possibly looking at a zero-stop race if drivers are aggressive enough on the fuel save from the get-go here tonight.
Well, that they will all look around and say, can we be a little bit lighter compared to others around? It's, of course, one of the narrowest pit lanes. I think it's the narrowest pit lane entrance in all of iRacing that they have to deal with today. So if they can avoid the pits, I think they'll be very happy for what they are achieving. There on the front then will go Brody Kostecki with Jared Filsell there and Thomas McMillan, the 2 Lobs cars who are there behind. Following that, Lianaj and Janssen giving what they can. Green flag in the air, and your race gets itself underway. What a start by Thomas McMillan. He'll immediately challenge Phil Sell, who moves over to the right-hand side, trying to cover off that move, but McMillan is going to try and sweep around and go for the race lead itself here. Kostecki holding that line on the inside, but can Thomas McMillan get the turn in? No, he can't. Leaders all go through, no troubles at all. Janssen side by side then with Corey Preston, who gets a great launch, and now here comes the drive in towards turn 3, out on track. McMillan scrapping it out with Jared Filsell, and further back as well they continue on to, because you've got Maloney and Preston that's there. They fall themselves into line. McMillan up the hill now over Yokohama Bridge.
Yeah, but as a result, it's been crisscrossed by Phil Sell as they got up over the bridge here for the first time. I'm still seeing a bit more side-by-side further on back, with single file starting to sort itself out here at the front of the field as down into Foster's Dip and the half round up. As there you go, side-by-side DPR and OPR machines there through the middle of the field. That there will be, pardon me if I can find them on that. Ryan Bettis there coming up on screen, and it's Chris Island in behind him as well. So 14th, 15th place there sorted out for the moment. There's a couple of cars further on back, with one of them being here, Byron Phillips. Unfortunately for him, has jumped the start. iRacing black flag next to his name there, Sperry.
Yep, so he's going to have to come into the pits in the opening 3 laps of this race and serve his penalty, and he will do that immediately. He's just clobbered it into the wall, and, well, if it doesn't rain, it pours for Byron Phillips there, and it just goes to show you how tough this pit entrance is here at Oran Park. But it's towards the front we go, and here comes the lunge down the inside at the Shell corner here. Jake Maloney looking to make that launch, and Steve Janssen lets him have it there in through 3 and through the champions corner of 4, confirms the pass as well. So important move for Maloney, who's making progress now, and that puts him up 2 spots and into the top 5.
And one TTR car moving forwards, another car, TTR car in the hands of Ross Rizzo, unfortunately backwards on the exit of the Shell corner. Sperry, we might get a replay if we can from producer Jake Kennedy, but unfortunately I can also tell you real quickly, looking at it myself on replay, he's done it all by himself trying to pass Rob Bowden through the Shell corner and looped it as he put the power down, which has put him second last, but now in a whole bunch of clear air of his own as well.
Well, Ross Rizzo threw it down the inside, and I think he was a little bit eager to get the power on the exit here. So he pulls himself down to the inside, doesn't really grab the curb. That's just lazy from the car there, just backing itself around and just not able to have much transfer as Maloney sets the fastest lap of the race. And wide goes Lianage through at turn 2, and that puts Jake Maloney into position. And for the 2nd consecutive week, Lianage loses out to Maloney, and Janssen dives down the inside. You've got to be opportunistic here at Oran Park. When it rains, it pours. And Corey Preston side by side now as Ryan Jones looks to attack up the hill. Replay on screen. No. Jones has gone around, by the way, and Rosella's caught up in it as they go through, but that's just an outbreak there from the likes of Lianage, and that causes the big chain reaction half a lap later.
Yeah, Jones now drops back to 13th place. Bettis in behind him with Ireland as well. So it's now DPR sandwich with an OPR filling in the center here. So another look at the replay top down as we look at this attempt once again. Part of this is further. This is Bettis and Ireland, I believe. Yep, and we're going to have Ryan Jones rejoining on the right-hand side. Yep, and you see there Rosella check up and tried to get around the outside of Ryan Jones, did Ryan Bettis, but was not able to make it stick, and then just politely told the apex and the space alongside Ryan Jones was not for the taking there, Jake.
No, it's very difficult through the Foster's Dip to run too wide. You have to be very committed and pretty much fully alongside to qualify that as a place you can make that move. But it is aggressive here on the start of this race. Everybody has formed themselves into a nice pack and single file, except for the likes of William Sapstead and Remo Grossenbacher going at it together. Sapstead on the outside here is going to leave himself open, because here comes Tomiya Inatani looking to get that sorted. Now Tomiya-san, can you find the pass there at the champions corner? You bet he can. Up the hill and gains another.
Yeah, that was started by an attempted pass by Sapstead through the sweeper into Coca-Cola corner at turn 2 on Grossenbacher, but no ability to get it stuck that time by it. Opened him up, being vulnerable to, as you said, Inatani. There's another replay here looking at Ryan Jones and Corey Preston a lap ago up through the champion corner. As there's the tag, just enough to upset the car, as well as possibly a bit of extra touch from McMillan in behind. Recovers it though after a couple of seconds and a handful of places lost, and thankfully pointing in the right direction as he carries on.
It's important that they're pointing the correct way and continuing on in this battle, because they know how much time they can lose around here if they're just thinking the wrong way. Luke Rosella now with the fastest lap of 107.5 to get onto the back of the Banter Alliance car of James. Just enough, getting close and giving the little tap, crosses him over into the shell corner. Chastity leaves the door wide open for him, knows he's quicker and didn't want to fight too much, so Rosella goes through and gains that place. I am keeping an eye out on that gap, between third and fourth. McMillan here, almost a second clear of Jake Maloney. If they can manage that here, it's going to make life exponentially harder for that group fourth on back to remain in contact with Kostecki, Filsell and McMillan.
It will indeed. I mean, the draft isn't so powerful around here. It's going to be all about momentum and getting your lines right at every single point on the circuit, as well as just utilising all of the track that has to offer here, and a little bit more in quite a few places too, which actually will be fascinating for me to watch out as to whether that means drivers here are going to be bringing a large amount of debris, perhaps more so than other places, back onto the circuit, which might make some of the corners a little interesting and a little more one line than you'd like. It's going to be hard enough to make a pass around here, but if we bring track debris on into play, it might be interesting indeed. A single file here on screen, I can see further on back, round 2 now between Sapstead, I think it was, was he Wanshi Lin for a moment, having a look at it there further on back, but the single file once again by the time I get to turn 2.
Well, it shows you where the train is. Car number 21 of Tim Mulford is off the back of the train, which means, in theory right now here, Dan, it's a 22-car battle for the race lead.
Close enough. I mean, they are a couple of car lengths here, and then, as you said, the near second from McMillan to Maloney, and a near second from Maloney to Rehan Lienage. As you definitely said, certainly Byron Phillips. Now Tim Mulford and Ross Rizzo, they're all now sort of on their own. As there's a lovely shot at their O'Brien aluminium dogleg there. Turns 10 and 11 here at this circuit as they try and get over the hill, find the second apex here, Jake, and cut back on it. You can see most drivers there actually were a little conservative. The backfield part of the field there, they certainly weren't afraid to cut over that second apex though.
No, they're looking at that, and you get that sense of you've got to go and attack this track if you want the best you can out of it. And those drivers at the back certainly managing it, as McMillan overcooks it through turn 2 there at Coca-Cola, and leading over to the shell corner here at turn 3. Once more, there's trouble side by side as Jack Widders then dispatches of Rehan Lienage, who has had a moment going through turn 2 again. The car just finding itself out sideways, and for the first time really this season, Rehan Lienage is struggling. Yeah,
this is just another unforced error, and not something I'm used to seeing from this young lad. He's still certainly finding a little bit more ultimate pace may be needed at certain places, but has been pretty steady and pretty consistent. Just, a little lock up of the rear brakes there as you try to get down the gears for turn 2. Thankfully, though, able to gather it up relatively quickly, but as you saw there, lost 3 spots as we go on board here with McMillan as well. And he was a little deep, the same moment before Rehan went around. Thankfully for him, it looks like it hasn't hurt him too much, apart from giving Jake Maloney a solid chance to latch on to the rear bumper of that number 16 Camaro.
Yeah, it's now 1.2 between Filsell and McMillan, so Maloney here's got a really good chance of moving on up and gaining what is needed. Widders now leading this battle pack forward as a little look side by side between Ryan Jones and Ryan Bettis. They're trying to work out who is the best Ryan of them. It's Jones on the outside. Bettis trying to say, no, it's still me, but no, it's not Ryan. You've got to sit down behind and wait for Ryan's turn out there just in front of him. So the battle there finding itself consistent, but Lienage there. The issue in turn 1 is one of the toughest corners in the turn 1 into turn 2. It's one of the toughest corners in the world of iRacing, because you've got to trail brake through it. You've got to turn and brake at the same time. And in these cars, which you really have to get it woed up through the corners, you've got to be so switched on to each and every single place where this track gives you the opportunity. Turns 1 and 2 are the toughest corners on this track, bar none.
And then in addition to the trail braking and the corner approach, the gear shifts here, Jake. You've got to make sure you get the gear shifts and the down and the blips on the downshifts lined up in sync, and that's most likely what caught Rehan out, I would say, with the way it seemed to snap. As up, indeed, Thomas McMillan, another moment wide at turn number 2, and this time Jake Maloney needs no further introduction to take that spot away from him there on the run to turn 3.
sneaks his way through into third position as shades now of what happened at the Red Bull Ring come back into play. Kostecki and Filsell both there, and I wonder if Filsell will be a little bit different with this race here today and just sit back and try and play the fuel save card. Lianage up the hill, 9th place now because he's lost out now to Luke Rosella, who's gone through on the inside. Behind him now will be Kurt Stenberg trying to bring himself in on through. So Widders and Preston now leads this group. So Corey Preston in 6th position will be starting to look a little bit behind. Lap 9 here of 42, and these drivers all pushing about trying to get what they can, but keep an eye out as they go through. So this is the overtake from Luke Rosella. Oh, he comes from a long way back on Rehan Lianage, and Lianage can only leave a car width open because he's just prized his way through, has Rosella. Wonderful move.
Yeah, he sure indeed. No big save, or because I think for a lot of these drivers there's been a fair bit of conservation and getting in the rhythm here to try and fuel save a bit tonight, but that wasn't the case there. It seemed into the shell corner on that occasion, because I'm just listening to the cars in the background, Jake, is riding the clutch into the turns. They can still dip them there. I was going to have another look at Thomas Mullen a lap ago at turn 2. It's just not pulling up for him, and then in the marbles the car won't stop any better again, and as a result has to concede that spot without putting up a fight.
Yeah, it's slippy through that section. I've just been keeping an eye on William Sapstead, who just seems to be going from pillar to post over this lap. He's just lost out to Yuanji Lin out there, and through also now has gone Dylan Golson, and now Rob Bowden just throws it down the inside of the dip. He's going to have to go around the outside of the Momo corner to get it done, but Sapstead covers that inside line and holds his station. But you do have to kind of stick up for yourself at a circuit like Oran Park, because the moment you're off the freight train, it is so hard to get back on again.
I mean, you just literally like said, you're just absolutely roll call of driver pass, driver pass, driver pass, driver pass, and all Sapstead can do is just sit there and observe, and finally gets to a spot there at Foster's Dip where he's able to defend his spot from Rob Bowden, where he nearly bailed out of it by what I saw, just to be cut to his feed there live. So now to settle into 21st place out of the 25 drivers all out on track and still running in this one here tonight. And notably for Tim Mulford and Ross Rizzo, they're catching the back of the train steadily, so they're going to be in a scrap of 16th on back realistic. There's another replay here from Sapstead and Yuanji Lin, just like Luke Rosella a lap ago, I have to say there, Jake. Big send up the inside, although it didn't quite get done as cleanly as we then get to Champion Curve, and that's where the move finally is sealed. And there you go, door open for Golson to repeat up and over the Yokohama Bridge.
Yeah, and then door open for Rob Bowden in the tanked car to try and find that pass, and just you have to put your foot down. It's 4 consecutive right-hand bends in a row after the shell corner, so if you're on the outside there, you just got to have to take your medicine. He did very well at the Momo corner just to keep himself back in play. There's your leading duo right now. That was just on screen briefly of Kostecki and Filsell there, as Brody, of course, was over at the Race of Champions not too long ago at Sydney. But now here comes a look from Corey Preston, who just opens the door up through the middle of the corner, gives a couple taps to Jack Widders to say, I'm commanding the road on the inside, and Rosella almost gets a quarter panel, and now Widders is going to get a quarter panel. He's turned over the nose of Rehan Lianage as he goes through, and Widders is dumped down behind James Chastaner.
And I think that there was started by a mistake from Preston into the Coca-Cola corner, which opened up the apex at turn 2 for Widders, but then it was the outside for turn 3 thanks to a robust defense there from that all-white Mustang, which was and still is at the head of this tertiary group in the leading pack. And for Widders there, they tried to shut the door on Lianage, who was having absolutely none of it there, and as a result shuffled back from, what was that there? 5th place, I believe it was. So sorry, it would have been 6th place. Shuffled all the way back to 11th as a result of that move.
Well, a -5 net loss, on that charge. So you're certainly seeing all of the troubles. And I think Corey Preston's really struggling to get the car slowed up. He had a massive wiggle going through again at turn 2. And that opens up that door once more for Luke Rosella to close in. Those gaps slowly starting to eke out here as they've gone through. We'll take a little look at what happened here as he went in through towards turn 2. So this is what he's fighting with. Oh, a huge amount of oversteer there. He had to do a full correction as he went through through the corner to try and keep that pointed in a straight line. It shows you how hard you've got to work around Oran Park. And speaking of working hard, Ryan Bettis losing out now to Ryan Muller, so he can't even get past Ryan. That Ryan had an extra H in his name, and there goes Ryan Bettis straight off the road, and everybody now advance.
Back down to 20th place for Bettis, which unfortunately back 10 spots from where he started this one. It's been a bit of a nightmare for him in that blackout OPR Camaro. So, and he made a mistake as well at shell corner that sets up the whole thing. So Ryan Muller able to be close enough to be all over that one there into turn 3 and finish the move at turn 4. And then just confirming here, I don't think I saw any contact from Remo Grossenbacher behind. Too far back, makes, again, wide on the exit of the Yokohama Bridge. And I think he's just going to lose the rear here. Yeah, in too deep, over the dip into Foster's dip as the track drops down. Done. Meanwhile, back to live pitches. Rosella now in front of Preston as we get to the bridge one more time.
Yeah, another move done, and that was done again into one of the best places to make a pass here today, that shell corner, turn number 3. Another lunge down the inside, and Luke Rosella just said, that's mine, and nobody's going to take that away. Middle of the pack, continuing to be aggressive here. Jack Widdus sitting there with James Chastanerf, with Kurt Stenberg there in front as well, and just trying to manage those fuel levels and having to be a little bit easier when you go into the brakes. Now, the art of fuel saving here, Dan, everyone knows when it comes to racing, it's lift and coast is the understanding of it. So you lift off of the throttle, you coast into the corner, but what you've also got to do is you've got to dump that clutch down to the floor. So you've got to take the engine braking away from it so you're still not burning the fuel as you decrease the speed.
Yeah, you'll just carry a little bit of extra speed into the corners, but then that's a Stenny locking up on live as Byron Phillips here on the full screen replay has decided that is enough of his race tonight. And that explains why we saw him immediately show up as towing back to the pits. Is back to live pitches. Jack Widdus now under assault from James Chastanerf, which he defends, and now it's Rain Campbell's turn to get up the inside of Chasty. He leans on him into champion curve to get the job done, and Ryan Jones would like a sniff at the spot too here over the Yokohama Bridge. No, can't get there. We'll settle for a more measured attack later on in that one there. And I think that was all started by the Trans-Tasman Camaro. Stenberg locking up into Coca-Cola corner unforced there. What it has done is it's just opened up the margins in this package. So there you go. Janssen, Rosella, Preston Leonage together, then Stenny, Widdus, Campbell, Chasty and Jones then stuck together, and Chris Ireland hanging on there on his own 14th. And there you go. The last couple of cars there as Muller, Grossenbacher, Yanatani, Lynn, Golson, Bowden, Bettis, Sapsted, Mulford, Rizzo, indeed, have now rejoined the very back of the train here with our 24 drivers still running in this race.
Focus then on to Tomiya Inatani here in 9th position with Yuanji Lin there just behind. And I tell you what, this is the most international flair I've seen of a supercar split in iRacing in a little while out there, because you've got Remo Grossenbacher, who is their Club Diach, and then of course you've got Inatani, who's from Japan. You've got Yuanji Lin, who's Club Michigan, but originates from China. So you're looking around at this group and you're saying, well, this is everything that you love about iRacing. It doesn't matter where you are or who you are, everybody is bonded and connected by the love of racing.
And even though this is sort of our special bit of racing here in Australia, in this part of the world, certainly, and shout out to everyone across the ditch in New Zealand as well, it's good to see it's making its mark, beyond our immediate area in the world. Tricky cars, and also here a legacy track now very much in terms of things here on the service, but it very much, makes for some good racing all the same, as we had eyes there out the back of Corey Preston's Mustang at Rehan Leonage. I happen to watch Inatani get very loose over the O'Brien's dogleg there and nearly put it in the grass, but hung onto it with two wheels sticking off the road there. So they carry on back down to 17th place. Battle here, though, is very much for 7th, as Leonage does look a little sharper, a little better into the corners for now, Jake. So where does he find the move on Preston here for 7th place?
Well, it's either turn 1 or turn 3. I think there's no real other alternatives out there, because he's just trying to find that transfer, and Corey Preston's just got enough legs over the top of Yokohama Bridge, which makes this run through Foster's Dip unobtainable for Leonage. If you can just pick the run up not only out of here, but over the dogleg and through at Recaro Corner, the final corner on this circuit, you've got a really good chance of making it happen. It's a small descent down the hill, uphill on the turn. Here's what you were talking about there. Oh, he just gets loose over the top. The front left wheel opens up and gains a little bit of air, and that's how quickly it can go astray. But that is close right now from Rehan Lianaj, going over 230 kilometers an hour, but he lifts very early, taking some fuel save, trying to go through, and there you can see having to soar away at the wheel. Here comes Lianaj, though, looking for the inside. He's going to have to go the long way around, but look at the drive he gets off the exit of Coca-Cola. He won't have enough to confirm the move. He still has to leave the room for Preston, who is always very cheeky, trying to take an extra half a car width here or there. Ryan Bettis is now down in the pits, but around the outside again, and a car stop. That's Golson.
Oh, so there we go. First driver who concedes that the zero stop is not going to work for them tonight, as we're still fighting this one out here on the exit of the Yokohama Bridge, as Lianaj tries to get in front, but has to concede on the outside of Foster Tip. Can't hang with Corey Preston. Kurt Stenberg now there right in the rear mirror, had been looking to catch up to these two guys, and is now a three-car train. Has to sort themselves out as they get to the end of this, the 18th lap in this race here. So we're just approaching the halfway mark in a couple laps' time. 11-second stop is tyres and about maybe 22 litres of fuel is a new fastest lap as well.
Still there.
Golson's
still there. He's had a technical of some description, and the leaders are going to see that as they go through. Bettis had a black flag for speeding on pit exit by the looks of it, but Brody Kostecki and co have all got themselves there. There's no other explanation for why he'd still be there. I think he's just had a moment which has said, I'm going to have to pull it over to the side of the road and wait, because we're in an official server. There's going to be no caution out there. There was no contact with anyone, so Dylan Golson threw it into the corner, and then the only way I could describe it here is that by the time he got through there, he lost all sight of everything.
Yeah, I'm going to presume screens, steering wheel, combination of those have happened, and the only question is now, is he going to get the escape key to be able to get the car off circuit? Thankfully, just far enough out of the way, and also a nice flat approach to turns 1 and 2 that drivers will have foresight. We're able to see it as they approach. They now know about the hazard, although the question is, will they presume the hazard is clear when these cars approach? You'd think so, so we're going to have to wait and see how they tackle it here this time, because he's still there and the leaders are coming around once again as we focus on this battle once again in behind Corey Preston, that now has Lianaj and Stenberg in close company. And of course, don't forget the cars further on behind: Jack Wittes, Rain Campbell, James Chastaneff, Ryan Jones, all pretty much nose to tail as well, as they all approach for the second time to find Golson still there. Preston a little wide, Jake. Is that going to be an opportunity at Shell Corner? No, it covers the inside on the way down.
Well, it's an old school racing circuit, and I guess we're going to have old school driving safety standards out there for this one, with the way that Golson's parked. I believe stewards have just said, well, play on, he's off the racing line. So they will continue on then and look to charge along. But this group, which sits as Preston here, P7 on back, is Lianaj and Stenberg and Wittes and Campbell and Chastaneff and Jones, who are all there now. So this goes all the way back to 13th position, and to walk your way through this group, look already on the outside there of Momo Corner just how many marbles are being put there on the side of the circuit. That's just all of the rubber build-up that's discarded off of the tyres as you go through, and all of the wear that's in play. And again at Recaro Corner, the very difficult final corner to get correct, because you're up the hill, so you get that massive amount of rotation that goes through in the car. Ryan Bettis back in again. This is now to serve the penalty.
All right, that sends him a lap down into the back of the train. We'll see him pop out later on in due course. But yeah, the big thing for the drivers now, even at this halfway mark of a 42-lap race, relatively short by the standards of this season so far here in the first part of 2025, Jake. But yeah, going offline now is going to be absolute nightmare. As we're going to see here, the pit entry from Ryan Bennett. Oh, he's done exactly what Byron Phillips did at the start of the race. Clobbers the left front on the entry, on the barrier dividing the racetrack from the pit lane there. So nasty little strike there. In fact, I think he might have just decided to call it quits coming into the pit lane and stopping in his box.
I just had a look at Jared Filson on this lap, and he has dropped time at turn 3. He's just gone half a car, if not a full car width, too wide through the corner, and that might have just given Brody Kostecki the gap. And at a time where Kostecki throws the fastest lap of the race down, a 107.4, oh, he knows just how to exacerbate a mistake.
Yeah, just going to really keep himself consistent and pushing on here tonight. Now, coming back to my point I wanted to quickly make about this thing, what you said, but the tyre marbles building up at certain corners. The biggest problem now is, for the drivers here, you're going to need to be on the line to maintain your grip and ability to both brake, steer, and accelerate around this place. anyone comes off lanes, I think maybe half a look there from Leonage, I should say, further on back. Jack, we're just having a look at Kurt Stenberg as well in that second battle pack. We're going to see on the replay here this little error from Jared Filsell. Has he grabbed, not grass, or maybe it was a tiniest bit of grass before the concrete curb on the outside started there, Jake?
Yeah, and it's not much when you see it there, but when you see a driver of Jared Filsell there really putting for it, he works. And just in the back there, Ryan Jones and James Chastanoff going for it, and Ryan Jones getting the pass done, dispatching of Chastity for that place, and it puts him now to -4 for the day as he now goes from 8th only to 12th and looks at that next group, and he'll have to try and work to get back onto it once again, as now Jared Filsell responds in kind with the fastest lap of the race, trying to keep Brody Kostecki honest here in this race. Here's the race on, though, for your top 5. Steve Janssen putting himself into play now. Luke Rosella has been making moves. He's up 6 so far, this to go to +7.
I think he was buried in the pack behind 10 laps ago or so, but he's got out ahead of it all, and now it seems to be on an absolute tear. The Lobs Esports cars, which currently sit 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 6th, all looking awfully strong here in this extended opening stint of the race release. The question being, will it still be the only stint? We've seen the Blackout OPR cars say, well, one of them said no, but then unfortunately an error for Betes there's put paid to that. Everyone else, though, happily ticking on as we've crossed over the halfway mark of the race and get ready to run this second half. Question being, will it be all the way out, or will there be something that causes people to have to dive into the pits, stop and recharge?
Lianage desperate to get by Corey Preston, but he can be very difficult to pass when he decides to be, and we've seen that over the course of this race, that he just plants the car in all the right places, and Filsell again goes purple and pulls the gap in under a second for the first time, as Janssen again, it's close between him and Luke Rosella, and they are trying to close in here on Thomas McMillan with no luck, and again, massive catch then from Preston going through at turn 2 at Coca-Cola. Over to Shell they go. Lianage has a little search over to the inside. Preston left the door wide open, and was that wise? Widders almost running up over the back then, and again comes the lunge by Lianage up the hill, almost trying to push his way through. No gap for Jack. Up over Yokohama Bridge into the next right, and now the next section, which is there. Winners has got all of the ability to try and throw it in, but nowhere to go on the move. Preston still with the inside. What drive by Lianage, great pass.
Oh, there you go, the outside of Foster tip. I was just so worried that we were going to get Jack Witters finding space for 3 wide. We said it was narrow enough as it is, but he nearly made it work twice. And there's your bottom recovery. Preston tries to shut the door. He says, that's not going to happen here, says Jack. He'll force it open at the apex. Can he get the drive off? He's not quite got the drive. It's going to be a drag race to turn 1.
And watch out as well as they side draft of each other, Cam Waters style. They'll look behind and see Kurt Stenberg there. So now where do you go? Door to door as they go through the opening couple of corners, and Widders will win out on it. And now here comes the charge from one Mr. Kurt Stenberg. Steady to the outside, looking for that pass, and he'll have to go around the outside of 4 straight corners to try and confirm this move. Preston on the inside, just finding out that he's $50 short, it looks like, on this run. Brilliant stuff there from Kurt. He gets the pass.
And I think that move was sealed at Champion Curve. Well, it was, but I think what it was there in particular, Preston holding the inside, had to jump up on the apex curve, and I think it just delayed his power on there, as well as a tight, slightly better run around the outside and a bit more of a straighter exit, allowed Stenberg to plant the throttle, get that one done nicely on the exit there. So now, Leonage released, Widders released, Stenberg released, and he looks racy in behind Jack Widders right now, lunging up towards the apex of Recaro Corner, but didn't get the drive off on that occasion there, so I'll have to see if that's going to be one that plays out over a couple of laps, or maybe just 1 or 2 more, as they go into turn 1, on the clutch for Stenberg, nice and early, and they go out of the clutch, in between turns 1 and 2, and he's still able to pull it up and hit the apex, but that long roll in there, to be able to utilize as much fuel saving as well as maintaining the speed into the corner without braking or letting the engine braking do its thing, as Preston now under assault from Rain Campbell. Doesn't get the move done. Ryan Jones wants in now on the OPR car.
You open the door up, you give me a sniff, and I will take everything I can. Jones confirming it over Yokohama Bridge. Rain Campbell desperate to get back into line to stop Chastaneuf getting into play, but well done there from Ryan Jones to get that pass. As that's all happened, Luke Rosella's gone through about 2 laps ago on Steve Jansen, did that over at the next section of corners, and again Phil Sell, another 107.3 to try and keep himself honest with Brody Kostecki, who's doing 7.4s right now, turning up the wick. 16 laps to go here at Oran Park to end the season out here with you and SimSpeed TV, and of course our production work with iRacing over the season. Here's Luke Rosella's pass, and this is as bread and butter as it gets. Steve Jansen, I guess he's been quite a pacifist in this race, really. The moment anyone's made a move, it's been easy on him.
It has been, but in saying that, that's now officially only 1 spot lost for Jansen from where he started this one in 5th place. So made some gains early on, and then dropping back now at this point in the race. Speaking of dropping back, Tomoya Inatani here in the number 9 Mustang, being told may have had some kind of an issue for him. As we will jump to a replay here, and a good watch for turn 2, Mr. Sperry, we're being told. There he is. Oh, that's in hot. That's in too hot. And we'll go to the grass and the gravel ever so slightly.
You can't go much hotter than that, and that was pretty hot. And everybody was looking around and saying, well, red car goes in a little bit too deep into the corner. That hot. But at this point, they are now starting to look around and say, with these 15 laps to go, where do you want to start stopping on the fuel save, and where do you start going to attack drivers in front of you? It's that sort of race now where you've just been sitting and waiting and sitting and waiting and sitting and waiting, hoping for something to happen. Chastaneuf continuing to stay close. Grossenbacher having a much better time of things than he did at Sandown, up 5 spots, and looking at Ryan Muller and Christopher Ireland here for places. So these would be some good moves that can be done to go and get these places, as Ireland has a couple troubles out there, but we'll have Ryan Muller as well bring himself into play through the Champions Curve and then back up the hill again. You're never truly going straight except on the front straight round here.
Yeah, no. Maybe I could argue in between Coca-Cola and Shell Corner, it's just straight enough. You can also count that one as well. But yeah, everywhere else, it's either you're setting up this double left off the Exeter Foster's dip into Momo, coming up into the dogleg here, and of course for 10 and 11, and just trying to find your second apex here, which you sort of get a feel for it. And then, even then, you're still more or less, Ryan Muller tries to fuel save in between the exit of the O'Brien dogleg and Recaro, and nearly pays a very dear price for that one indeed.
The dear price would have been his entire race if Muller wasn't too careful. The good news is he's got a gap over Grossenbacher, and he doesn't have to worry here into turns 1 and 2 out on track. So he'll hold his station as Grossenbacher behind him gets right up to his bumper, but that's about it turning into the corner. So that all holds itself out quite nicely. Gap at the front for the leaders compared to Jay Maloney is now 7.5 seconds. And it's 3/4 of a second your race lead gap between Kostecki and Phil Sell. And we do need to note this because it is going to be as close as you like. So this is he just catches the rears. The rears lock up here. You don't have 4-wheel drive. This is a car which really you are so reliant on those rear wheels.
Yeah, and once again, another moment there with just getting the rear axle out of step with the engine on downshifts, and with the added challenge of getting it right with your fuel saving too. Just nearly upsetting the car completely into a spin, but able to slap on the lock to catch that one there. As we look here at Stenberg, trying to keep on the back of Jack Woods, hasn't made a move yet just yet. I suggest we also turn our attention to the battle for 4th place, because
here it goes.
Is right up the inside of Thomas Miller. In fact, there you go. He's up the inside now. Not going to be given up all that easily by the body owners. No, not going to give it up at all.
Wow! Front there, side-to-side contact, and Thomas McMillan was trying to get cheeky. Luke Rosella was never going to deviate, and he gets the half hit, but the move made. Rosella, your biggest mover in the field. He is up a staggering 8 places here today at Oran Park, and that, the move for 4th place. McMillan didn't want to let it go, and Steve Jansen joins the fray.
And there's a chance for Jansen to get back to the top 5 now, based on that moment there, as McMillan lost all his momentum relative to Jansen. Let's have a look here. Last time around, about a 10th in favour of Jansen. Not quite, but thereabouts. So we'll watch here for this lap. Obviously, he'll have gained a whole bunch more time, and indeed he gains nearly So going to see here, watch the replay for the wheel work, we're being told, from Luke Rosella. So out of shell corner, should be fine. And then bang! Full snap it off to the right to keep that one pointed in the preferred direction at that point in the circuit.
You need fast hands to keep that out of play, and I know there would have been a lot that would have taken maybe even the wheel out of the hands there at that sort of point. So very well played by Rosella to keep that one pointing in the right direction, with McMillan now descending down to 5th position. Steve Janssen finding himself in 6th. This group 7 seconds clear of the next group in front. Now, in-sim time here has just ticked over 6:05, so this is about as cool as it gets right now here. 27 degrees track temperature is pretty much, I would say, descending into the evening here. It's not going to drop much more than this in terms of that, but it has been a little bit blustery. 20 kilometers an hour here from the southeast. That's giving themselves a tailwind, you'd feel, or a cross tailwind across this front stretch.
That's an important thing to note there. Maybe a little bit of extra push, and maybe protecting from any big drafting moves, because it means the car in front's being given a bit of a helping hand as well. As eyes back at Kurt Stenberg. Once again, he was awfully close through Foster's dip on the approach to Momo corner, but by the time we get to the start-finish straight once again, a couple of car lengths in between these two cars, and I think for sitting there, he'll roll it in once again to the sweeper and Coca-Cola here and try and get back up close through the middle of the lap and then save the fuel down these straightaway sections where he needs to. As got Ryan Jones here trying to find a look at Corey Preston, but not close enough yet to be threatening just now. But Preston, once again, continuing to drop back a few more spots. Can he arrest the momentum, Jake, before the end of this race with 10.5 to go?
I've just looked at Phil, so he had a moment, lap 31, going out of Yokohama Bridge and over towards the Foster's dip. 2 tyres were dipped into the grass, and he couldn't get the turn in through the corner, had to roll out of the throttle, and that gap back again to 1.2 seconds. So Kostecki is just unrelenting. Philcell's got the pace, but he cannot match Kostecki's consistency in this one, as again, Preston brings himself into a position where he now has to scrap with Ryan Jones in his DPR car, looking every way to try and make that pass. It's very confusing to have 3 different cars with some iteration of black, white and red on them at this moment, but in through turn 1 and turn 2, it's straight on for Corey Preston. Through goes Ryan Jones. Here comes the look. Ryan Campbell picks it up as well. Chastity not close enough to capitalise.
And you've got to maximise your entry to the Coca-Cola corner with that concrete curving in between turns 1 and 2. But just quick replay here. There you go. A little bit of grass on the left side tyres, and then a bit more at Foster's dip. Okay, that's certainly a bit more pronounced, and as a result, a slide into the dip there on that occasion, as you pointed out just a moment ago, Mr. Sperry. But it's just going to, finally say there, you've got to maximise the entry to turn 2 and use the concrete curving. But for Corey Preston, 2 straight there, stays into the then what becomes the grass, and as a result runs it in too hot and slightly off the road, positions lost.
Well, here's something interesting for you who are brand new to iRacing. Fast slap of the race there from Brody Kostecki, 107.325. Lost time to Jared Filso, 107.288. Reason why Kostecki's got the fastest lap, Jared Filso had an off track on that last lap.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to note here. You don't have a huge amount to play with at 17 incident points before you'd be issued an iRacing black flag. But at the same time, if you've perhaps been conservative and presuming, based on we're at 9 to go, everyone yet to come into the pit lane of those still running, that they're all trying to make sure they make it home, maybe keeps in the points in bank as Preston and Chastity issues at the shell corner.
Oh, that's not what you want to hear, and James Chastanerf then is going to see Corey Preston drop down the order. Chastity was trying to pull alongside. I think Chastanerf locked up the front, trying to get it slowed up, and then Corey Preston, who left him just about racing room there, 1 car's width on the inside, he just gets the door, and just like that is not the shunt and contact that Preston wanted.
Yeah, maybe a bit of mixed messaging, perhaps. He's going to insult to injury, lose a spot to Chris Island there by Champion Curve. And Ryan Muller now looking all over the gearbox of him there. But for Chastity, he wanted it, and then he goes in straight. But it's sort of fascinating. The car looked like it was going to pull up okay. Then all of a sudden, fronts lock up, and, well, the moment you lose the fronts, of course, where else but straight on, regardless of your cornering intentions. It's going to be the outcome of that one there. Feels like to me Preston wants to defend these spots. Just cover the inside all the way in now is what he's going to have to do, because drivers are not afraid, it seems, to stick one up the inside late under brakes into turn 3.
Has Jared just gone off at turn 2? Because that gap's now 4.5 seconds. Wow. That might be the race right there. Philsell pushing, had traffic of William Sapstead to try and deal with, and he's only just got by him now. And that, for Jared Philsell, might just see Brody Kostecki home and hosed with the final 7 laps of this race. But second will still be good enough for the title, without doubt. So he gets the clearance on Sapstead, and as he looks to try and tilt it in through the first corner, he has a wiggle on the entry as he hits the curb, and he just steps it out of line. Through the gravel he goes, and that cloud of smoke is the illusion of a race victory going away. And now here comes Steve Jansen with a look on Thomas McMillan for position. Lunge and a half down the inside. He gets into the door of him, but McMillan holds firm, and for the moment holds position, tries to cut him off, and does.
Very close there to having himself spun on the nose of Jansen on that cutoff, but it works there as Grossenbach is going around at the exit of turn 2. There's been a bit of a contact there, it seems, with Wan Chi Lin. I'm just seeing on my replay as Grossenbacher will recover, but now be down in 20th place with Ross Rizzo to his inside at Shell. So it's been now about 5 spots lost for the number 25 machine here. Late on in the piece, as we'll get a quick replay of this one as well. So Lin looking inside here, Sperry, and the door's wide open, but he's not fully alongside, and as a result, we get a tag on the left rear corner of that Camaro.
Gets him in the L plate there, which doesn't help him out any sort of style there on the rear, and he was immediately on the radio saying GG, thanks for that, and will not be happy about that. I think there's anything but a good game for what he was trying to gain from this race. But Steve Jansen's not giving this one up. Thomas McMillan, when he wants to make life difficult, he will, and racing drivers are like elephants. When other people make contact with them, they never forget it, but it's funny how they go from elephants to goldfish when it's the other way round.
Yeah, very true indeed. Jansen, he needs to find the inside someone. He thinks the bridge might be the place to do it, but no, can't make that one work on this occasion there, but clearly has found something pace-wise. Now, is it fuel saving that's still going on here for McMillan in more of an extreme capacity, or is this a case of Jansen having a little bit more tyre on the move? Because it certainly looks decent on corner exit, relatively speaking, and that might be what he's got left to work with here with just 5 laps to go when they hit the line. Although Jansen dips in the grass there, but gets it back on asphalt before braking for Recaro corner there to ensure he doesn't lose it. But look at that there for McMillan. Sperry just wiggling all the way out to the very edge of the racetrack there on the final turn.
There's no give in that final corner, by the way. That is earth and bank as you go through in a concrete wall, and again a wiggle into the opening couple of corners. Then from Thomas McMillan, he definitely looks disturbed out there. He looks very much unsettled with the way that he's driving. Steve Jansen is one of the smoothest drivers in this series. You very rarely see him out of trouble any point in time. He always seems to be able to find a finish of some kind when it comes to these races, and that's the sort of quality you love to see in a driver like Steve. But for the moment, Steve is stuck, and Thomas McMillan holds his place, and this fantastic camera just underneath the Yokohama bridge there, and we see all the little miniature battles bringing themselves into play. Widdowson, Stenberg, and Jones and Campbell, and now we'll see a 3-car group up the hill: Preston and Muller and Lynn.
And then it keeps on going with Inatani, Bowden, Rizzo, and Grossenbacher just in behind them as well. 4 to go at the line. Your fastest lap of the race officially from Brody Kostecki, almost getting below 107.3, but a 0.311 is what it currently sits at this time. And also critically, I think we need to watch out for Rehan Leno to join the battle for 5th place with McMillan and Jansen. He gained nearly a second, in fact, almost a second on McMillan on that last lap. And if he can keep that up, or maybe the 2 in front of him scrap a little harder, that'll sort things out. And speaking of sorting things out, we may have to go to a 7-car battle for 14th on back to resolve things here further on down the orders. Lynn to the inside. Not quite, though.
But Rob Bowden is, and he'll try and get Inatani's place here through turn 2. And Inatani finds understeers. He can't get the rotation in the car, having to open up the steering to allow Rob Bowden in. He now goes hard to the inside, trying to get Ross Rizzo in play. Locks up the rears, and through goes Rizzo. And now here comes the look from Inatani as Grossenbacher now to the inside, gets his place and gains one more, but Grossenbacher slides it off the exit, and Inatani will attack him back up the hill over Yokohama Bridge and says, psych, that's mine again.
Oh, and then down at the dip, here we go. Muller trying to fend off Rob Bowden as well in all of this here. Ryan Muller into deep indeed, as back up the front of the field. Janssen awfully close, but Millen can't make it work this time by, as Ryan Muller regains position and rhythm, hopefully, by the time he gets to Recaro, but now got Ross Rizzo for company here. And it opens up this pack once again, although Juan Lin looking for the position as well, but we've got to go back to the battle for fifth. Here we go.
They're all starting to kick off now with 3 laps to go, and Janssen can't do anything on the outside of the champions curve because that is Thomas McMillan just looking to flex a little bit and say, I'm not having any of that, mate. You're going to have to try and get through on the inside, but I'm not going to let you have that easy. But it's 3 wide as they head in. Grossenbacher down the inside. Muller gets swarmed, and Inatani finds himself through. Muller gets on the radio to say, wow, that's not exactly what I was wanting to deal with through that section of road. But Ryan Muller gets more contact. He gets turned around by Inatani.
Well, he might have called it a smart move in very sarcastic terms at Shell Corner, but if anything, that was a fantastic move from Remo Grossenbacher to take the opening advantage and basically pincer Muller there in the middle of that corner there. Then on the exit here, Inatani goes for a straight exit, and then the contact and secondary contact following afterwards. Well, that puts paid to Ryan Muller's efforts to be in that battle pack. There is 2 to go. Jansen's through it in 5th place.
Yeah, finally for him. That was wonderful. And into the pits is going to go Corey Preston. So maybe he hasn't been able to save his tyres the way he wanted to. Steve Janssen got it done going into Recaro. So he caught Thomas McMillan napping and stole his place away. So it was wonderfully done. Ryan Muller now also into the pits. I can only imagine for fuel out there. But Brody Kostecki goes on to start his final lap of the race. We'll take a look at this move then from Steve Janssen, and look at that, straight down the inside of the final corner. Oh, he sold him every which way on that pass, and now with just a lap to go, can McMillan find himself any way back to make this move, as now they rush through along this front stretch, hoping there's going to be a chance to make that move. They will deal with all of these drivers, but there are slowdown penalties in play for Thomas McMillan, who overcooks it through the corner. That will get the slowdown served, surely, as he goes through. It does, but it will cost him for Rehan Lianash, who takes that place, going on to the final lap. Ryan Muller's out to the pits behind, and now round goes McMillan, and it all goes to pot for him in the final stages. Just the red curtain descending, but no such dramas for Brody Kostecki, who stayed stoic, who stayed resolute, staved off Jared Filsell, and here at Oran Park takes the finale and the victory. Filsell will come to the line, and he will wrap up your iRacing C-Class Supercars Series title.
And McMillan has just lost a spot to a humongous send from Jack Willis to the Foster's dip of all places there. He's run out of fuel. I think that's coughing. Yes, it is. He's going to limp that thing home here and hope he doesn't lose any more spots to the cars behind. Next one coming up will be Kurt Stenberg and Ryan Jones as a pair. Onto the fast. Nope, he's out. And here we go. Stenberg. Oh, Jones. Jeez. Oh, Stenny's short too. Ryan Jones
just like that. Line. Ryan Jones stole it, 0.3 of a second. It's agonising here for McMillan as he desperately tries to get over the line. He's got to get to that secondary line. He's past the first line. He's short by 3 grid positions from the line. Oh, heartbreak for McMillan.
Well, when it comes down to a matter of meters, that is, brutal. As the timing line is not the one that says Oran Park. It's at the, as you said,
the other
Jake.
one that says Oran Park.
Yeah, the one that sits where they started at the front row there is. With that, everyone I think is across the line. Indeed, they are, barring McMillan. So the results are now official in this session here. And, wow, high drama at Oran Park with the fuel-saving games coming to the fore, but only on the very final lap. Ryan Muller, Corey Preston, 2 drivers, though, who had to concede and dive to the pits to sort themselves out. So, your race results here, Jake, and I'll hand to you to read through them.
Well, Brody Kostecki, being buoyed with that result, was just able to keep the car on the track. Jared Filsell was pushing and pushing and pushing and ultimately pushed too hard here at Oran Park, and the gap 7.4 over the line. Jake Maloney would round out the podium with Luke Rosella and Steve Janssen 4th and 5th. Rehan Lianaj picking up that 6th position with half a lap to go, ahead of Jack Widdus in 7th, and Ryan Jones stealing one over Kurt Stenberg in 8th place. Rain Campbell would find himself in that 10th position out there overall, and that will give him a little bit of something to work with. You then got James Chastanoff in 11th and Christopher Ireland 12th, Yuanji Lin and Ross Rizzo 13th and 14th, with Remo Grossenbacher finding himself in 15th, just ahead of Tomoya Inatani in 16th. It was then Tim Mulford and Rob Bowden 17th and 18th, but if the finish line was the same finish line they used in 1999 or 2000, that would have been enough for one driver known as Thomas McMillan to get over the line. They moved the line forward in 2001, and as such, he will be a lap down because he was 3 grid stalls too short of the finish of this race. William Sapstead will find himself in 20th, and then you look further down, Ryan Muller 1 lap down in 21st, 2 laps down for Corey Preston in 22nd, and then your 3 retirees from the race, Ryan Bettis, Dylan Golson, and Byron Phillips II in trouble for Eclipse in the opening laps of this race. So that just speaks volumes in terms of some of the struggles that we have seen out there over the course of this race. But over the course of an entire season, Dan, I think this has been the fantastic zenith of what we have wanted to see from a C-Class Supercar Series. Fantastic action week in and week out, and the best that this series has to offer is some of the best racing that sim racing has seen pretty much ever.
Yeah, without a doubt, brand new car has brought everyone back, flocking, of course, to kick the season off. We obviously do see the fade away a little bit there in the mid and end of the season, but there's one last look. Indeed, actually, both of them say Oran Park, and unfortunately, for Thomas, no one was willing to give him a push across the line to finish that one off for him there. In fact, they all pass him by until he has to concede the inevitable, it seems, there tonight. But, I mean, yeah, once again, a driver like Jared Filso, who's at the top of his game, it seems, for the most part here on the sim, and showing week in, week out why it's the case, with only drivers like Brody Kostecki able to really show him and match him for racing results and taking wins away in this 12-week official series.
Well, there is so much great racing that's coming up over the next week with us at SimSpeed TV, and one of the fantastic fixtures here with us at SimSpeed gets into life on Friday night or Saturday morning, depending on where you are, because the iRacing Grand Prix Tour is rolling back into town. We'll be moving over to Victoria for that on Friday, when we head to the Phillip Island circuit as we get the Mercedes into full drive with that. On top of all of that as well, it is week 13 which comes up, a brand new build, so much amazing stuff that comes through, and week 13 also just so happens to be Max Bant's time out there over the course of the world. If you haven't had the chance to already, Southpaw Racer on YouTube has a fantastic video detailing what the racing's going to be. That will be over at the Nürburgring combined, if that gives you any indication of what comes up in that field. But from the entire team who has brought this series over to you and has got it done, from Jay Kennedy, who's been on production behind the scenes, Dan Yeaman, who has been alongside me here for this one, and over the course of the season we've had the likes of Brady Baldwin in the commentary booth alongside to give a little bit of fun along with the ride. My name has been Jake Sperry. It has been one of those seasons where you look back and each race has had its own merit and credit that has been situated with it. Some fantastic drives, some drivers looking to use their drop rounds effectively, but a mid-season charge of one that goes to eyes of grandeur. Jared Filsell was simply unstoppable in the middle of this season, and that's what took him to the title. We'll remember for a very long time the drive he had with Brody Kostecki over at the Red Bull Ring. But here at this track, this race of Oran Park, the victory may be Pyrrhic here when it comes to a driver like Brody Kostecki, but the pace is certainly still there. We will see you as soon as we can. For those with SimSpeed, we'll see you on Friday. With iRacing, we'll see you next time there is amazing sim racing action on the horizon.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green.
He's got the run, but isn't enough. It's a drag race to the finish. Culver goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.